Hi, everybody.
Hi, everybody.
I'm Scott.
I'm John.
And we're married.
Yay. We just celebrated our 8-year anniversary.
May 2nd.
May 2nd, and it is now May something. 10th?
10th, yes.
So 8 years, 8 days.
8 years, 8 days. And 8 hours. No, I don't know that. So we are back again with another episode of SweetTeaNoShade, which is a knitting... We show knitting stuff.
Do we?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yes. I'm not getting your joke.
I'm making a joke, of course.
It's not a good joke.
It is a good joke. Anyway.
We show knitting stuff and we drink mint juleps. That's what we're drinking today because it is May. We had a Kentucky Derby party. You can't put your glass down after you cheers or it's bad luck or something. Okay. And these are Salisbury pewter.
Pewter.
Blah, blah, blah.
Salisbury pewter.
Pewter mint julep glasses. So we had a mint julep party and it was very fun. Is he behaving?
Of course he's behaving. Harris! Buddy. Stop it. Think of your choices.
What is he doing?
He's just sniffing around my bag.
Oh, well, that's not misbehaving. I mean,
yeah. Anyway.
So we are going to talk about knitting stuff that we're working on and that we've completed. Although I think you're the only one that has a finished object.
Two.
You have two?
Well, one is an asterisk, but it's still pretty complete.
Oh, because of the pom-pom?
Don't steal my thunder.
God, I just gave away.
Oh my god, spoiler.
Gave away the secret. Spoiler
there's no pom-pom.
And then, so we talk about knitting stuff in the first half, and then we talk about, we do movie reviews at the end, or the second half, which is the best Oscar winner. Okay, I need to get into a rhythm about this. The best and the worst movie of whatever year we've picked.
According to the Oscars and the Razzies.
Right. So.
You might have a different opinion.
Well, yes, I think we all have different opinions. What's going on in Minnesota?
It is warm. Finally.
I think it was it like 82 today or something?
It's in the 70s, 80s, which is lovely. It's green. Everything is flooding. So, someone told me the Mississippi River, which goes right through Minneapolis, St. Paul, is at like 18 feet above where it's usually. It's super high.
Wow. I knew when you drive over the bridge it looked high, but I didn't realize it was that high.
And there's still apparently a foot of snow up north. So it's going to be a very wet spring. But we had a very dry summer last year, so it's all good. Yeah.
And our lawn, most people's lawns have big dead patches from the drought last summer.
And we had dead patches before the drought, so now we're all on the same page. So
yeah, but we're going to get our yard in shape this year. But the big exciting thing in our lives, more than anything, Vivian probably thinks I'm going to say that she's visiting.
No, that's old news.
That's old news.
It's our new oven.
We're getting a new oven. We're getting a countertop fancy ice maker that makes the fun crunchy ice, and we're getting a new couch.
God, we're bougie.
The oven, because it's 1,000 years old and it broke. The ice maker, because it's something that I wanted. And the couch, because...
Scott's hated our couch for a long time.
I haven't hated it, it just hurts my back.
Right. And then the other day, it just happened to somebody...
I didn't sabotage it.
Somebody sat on the couch and we heard
it clunk.
Yeah. So it's
something inside of it broke. Its soul. Yeah. So
we've had that couch for
since 2010, right?
So about 13, 14 years. 13 years.
13 years. Yeah, 12, 13 years.
It done good.
Yeah. So that'll be nice to get a new couch. Our oven's coming. Our ice maker's coming tomorrow. Our oven's coming Friday.
We've really been without an oven for about 3 months.
Not 3 months.
Because it was first unplugged for 2 months.
Yeah, we didn't know it was unplugged.
Yeah. Anyway, whatever. Anyway, the important thing is we're getting a new oven, which is very exciting because just in time for Scott's birthday.
Oh, that's right.
So I can make a cake for him this weekend.
I thought you were going to say Mother's Day because we're going to... who cares about that?
You know. We're giving her places.
She's visiting. She's still visiting and she's over there again.
What is it? Ben Franklin, house gust, and fish smell after 2 weeks.
Well, she's highly offended, I'm sure.
I can tell.
Yeah. So, anything else going on fascinating in our lives? We don't really have any trips planned.
Well, we're going to Chicago in July. That'll be fun.
Oh, that's right. Going to Chicago in July. Yes.
That's not a trip. That's an errand.
I'm trafficking Betty Ann across state lines back to her house
At much risk to yourself.
at much dismay.
Right.
But yeah, so we're going. We don't have any like international travels or anything.
Not
like that
unless you
planned.
book something. So we'll recharge our batteries and figure that out soon.
Yeah, so just enjoying life and work's going good and
But yeah, no, things are good. It is very nice right now in Minnesota, which is really lovely after a very long cold winter.
all right. So why don't you start with finished objects?
I will. All right. So this is a baby blanket. I knit it for our friends, Jeffrey and Matt, who just had a baby.
For baby Felix.
Baby Felix, who is adorable. I had lunch with them. But I mean Jeffrey and Felix, not Matt, because Matt's working and Jeffrey's on paternity leave. The other day, and Felix is very, very cute. He's about a month and a half old, maybe.
Yeah.
So he's very tiny, but very adorable. So I knit this. I started this in, I think, early March. And yeah, it's the Bounce.
Do you remember what his birthday is?
No, it's sometime in February.
It's February? Okay.
Because it's the whole, yeah. Pardon me, because he was
So
early.
is this a free pattern or a purchased pattern?
It's a purchase pattern. I mean, I bought it from a kit, so it very well may be free, but I bought the pattern and the yarn, which is Berroco Vintage. It's called Colors, I think, and it's a mix of nylon, acrylic, and wool. I don't know the percentages.
But it's machine washable.
It's machine washable because that's important for baby blankets.
Yes.
And I really like how it came out. So the way I did the pattern.
Why don't you hold it up for just a minute, or I can hold it up while you talk about it, because I want them to see the kind of the detail of the scallops or whatever you call that.
Yeah. So the way I did it is I picked, there's 6 colors. And so what I do, when I finished one stripe, I'd roll a die, a 1d6. And I did basically Roy G. Biv. And so for the 1, it was red. It was 2, it was yellow. No, 2 was orange, blah, blah, blah. And I was a little, not concerned, but it's like, well, I don't know if the colors are going to look good next to each other, but they all do, I think.
Yeah.
So I guess that's kind of the nice thing about, all the...
It's like rainbow without being red, orange, yellow, green, blue.
Right,
red,
right.
Orange, yellow, green, blue.
Which is what I wanted. I wanted to do a rainbow blanket, but I didn't want it to look like a pride flag.
Right.
Nothing wrong with looking like a pride flag, but it's a little... I just like that a lot.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So were there any new techniques or anything that you learned in doing this?
No, the big one is, so it is basically your knitting and purling, and then this scallop pattern, which y'all can see, comes from yarn overs, and then you have a 3-stitch decrease in the middle, which creates this larger ridge right there, and then also sort of causes this just to bunch up. So it was very fun. And actually, it wasn't complete, it wasn't completely mindless, because there were some, when, you had to sort of count and do your decrease at the right time, but it was pretty easy to do. I could do while watching TV and stuff like that. So yeah, is washed and blocked, washed in Dreft, which is what you...
I wonder what's different about Dreft that it works for babies. What's different in Dreft, Mom?
Probably just a milder soap, I would guess. I don't know.
Oh, that's...
Or this is like last episode where we asked her a bunch of questions she doesn't know the answer to any of them.
Right. Yeah, no, I think it's, hypoallergenic, blah, 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 blah.
So, with this in mind, so I've crocheted an Afghan, one, maybe 2.
Mm-hmm.
Would you ever knit an Afghan or a blanket? Because it just seems like that would take a lot longer than crocheting.
I would knit
a blanket.
So I would do one where you're doing squares. Because I think actually, a full... So unless you want to use that crazy yarn that's the size of your wrists.
Oh, yeah.
Which is really expensive and I don't like how it looks. I wouldn't want it because that's just too much to manage.
Mm-hmm.
I would do something where you do squares and then you sew them together. I've seen some really cool...
I really, really like K. Jones, the Bakery Bears, K. Jones feet. Let's hold it up so they can see it. What's the bank blanket that she does where it's fingering weight yarn and she does little squares and then she does a white border around it? I can't remember what it's called, I'm sure.
Yeah, I can't either.
But if I can find the pattern, I'll link to it. Well, I don't know if she has... Anyway, it doesn't matter. I really like...
Yeah.
What I like about her... what I like about that blanket is that it... Rather than the colors being right next to each other, she does a square with a white border. And so it kind of, breaks it up.
I've seen ones where you basically knit the same tile, basically. So it's like it's a tiling thing. And then you arrange the tiles in different patterns. It's almost like a quilt. And that looked really cool. I went... at some point I might do that. So we got that. We're doing this one. I have this, it's called the 10-stitch blanket that I've been...
The one that you and I were doing together.
And it's somewhere in our, purgatory. It would be nice to do, but I just don't think we're going to do it. So,
would you ever knit this again? This pattern again?
Yeah, I think so.
Like if there was another baby that were to come along.
She did a jelly roll blanket. Is that it?
I don't think so. I think she might have been making it up.
Okay.
Making the pattern.
Stitch in Time.
Yeah, I don't remember.
I would do another blanket. I don't know, just because I'm kind of a one and done with patterns. I really enjoyed this. This was very fun.
Better not be that way with husbands.
I would say that would be exactly what you want with the husbands. Yeah, I have one and done. I
got that wrong.
we hope. But yeah, I mean,
messed that up.
But yeah, I would definitely do another. I would,
like the edge of this.
It's just.
I really like that. I know it's just.
It's just garter stitch.
Garter stitch. I don't know. I just really like that edge.
Yeah. And it had to weave in a lot of ends at the end, but it was really good. So I'll probably give it to them Friday.
All right.
So
very cool.
Baby blankets. Very fun. I think it's the first baby blanket I've knit by myself.
Awesome. Okay. Well, I'm going to do my related project, which is not quite done. It should have been done. It could very easily be done, but
you're
it's not.
A bad person.
I'm a bad person.
You hate babies.
I hate babies, and I get distracted by shiny new projects.
Or your mom. Let's
not blame Betty Ann for that. I can blame Betty Ann for most things in my life, but not this.
Okay.
Excuse me.
So we have the armless teddy bear. This is my Mr. Bakery Bear, K. Jones from the Bakery Bears. And this is going to be for baby Felix as well. It's not turning out 100% as good as the last time I made it.
If you put arms on it, might look better.
Well, that's true. But it's not the end of the world. I'm definitely enjoying knitting it, but his ears are not exactly the same. I'm not sure what I did wrong there. They're a little lopsided or something. One's not quite. I don't know, but it's fine. Again, it's a handmade.
Maybe Phil's gonna be like, these ears are garbage,
and he's gonna spit on it and throw it away.
Pretty much.
And then the brains that you could see, I fixed that. I don't know if it's called whip stitch or what I did exactly, but I just did some brain surgery there, so you can't see his brain anymore. And then when I attached his legs, I started attached. So like if you let this leg lay the way that it wants to lay, it's like to the side. So
no, he's got a jaunty stance. I think that's cute.
So, but once I put the arms on and I make the clothes and I put the clothes on, it's going to be super cute.
Right now it's an armless bear.
I don't know why I'm like so hung up on this. Like, feeling like it's not perfect, and last time it was perfect, because I'm sure it wasn't, but it's cute. That's all that really matters.
It's cute. I like the colors a lot.
And it's a handmade bear. It's a handmade teddy bear, and I think he's gonna like it. So
you better like it.
This is the Mr. Bakery Bear pattern, K. Jones. I think I said that already. And I've shown in previous episodes, I've shown the yarn that I'm gonna make for the clothes and such. But really, all I have to do is stuff and attach the arms, and then make the shorts or the pants, and then make the sweater. Now, I think I talked about this before, but one of the things... Can you hold Mr. Bakery Bear? One of the things...
Hello.
What are you? Maybe that was probably a bad idea. One of the things that I am going to do with this, which is something I've done when I've done this pattern before, is the sweater has like a cable pattern on it in the actual pattern, but I'm just going to do stockinette, but I'm going to do a color work thing that has Felix's name in the sweater. So I'm going to do that instead of doing the cable pattern. So yeah, so I mean, I literally just do graph paper. Like I count the number of stitches that are in the pattern, and then I center the name I'm using graph paper, and then I use that as my. It's kind of like making my own chart.
So didn't you stuff the legs, and it didn't say to stuff the legs or something?
No, I was not going to stuff the... I cannot find in the pattern where it says to stuff the legs, but in the pictures the legs are stuffed.
Okay, but you clearly, like, you wouldn't just build this and not
Well, there
stuff.
was a... And I was getting confused because there was a pattern... I don't trust Harris. There was a pattern that I did for my nephew, Santiago, that was like a little monster, stuffed monster thing, and its arms and legs...
That was the monkey.
Oh, it was a monkey, not a monster. That's what it was. It was a monkey.
Right, because the whole point is to drag the monkey along with the arms. Yeah.
Exactly. So its hands and its feet were stuffed, but not its arms and legs. So that's what it was, a monkey.
Fun.
So yeah. So that will be done soon.
Very cool. Very cute.
And I'll I don't know if you're going to want to wait so that we can give them together. I guess it depends on how quickly I do this, huh? Maybe that'll be my motivation to get it done, so we can give them the blanket and the teddy bear together. Unless you already have a plan of when you're going to give it.
I don't have a plan. I was just going to do it like Friday because it's done.
Okay, whatever.
But, we'll figure it out.
Yeah. What's next?
Should we do... Let me do my sock, and then we can do our hats.
Okay, that sounds good.
So, I have a finished object, but I'm going to delay my initiative because it makes more sense to do the two hats together.
Yeah.
So, this is the Hazelfern sock by Brooklyn Tweed. Jared Flood. And I've been working on this, I think, for quite some time, but I was hoping to have
since January, I think.
I started it when we were in Florida visiting your dad, which is early February.
Yeah.
So here it is. It is probably about 2 inches from being done. If I can start with the toe.
Hold it still for just a minute. Why don't you talk about it while I hold it?
Hold the toe.
Hold the toe.
Wait until ready for the toe. But yeah, it's going along really well. Same as it ever was. Very detailed pattern. It's a very fun pattern to knit once you sort of get the hang of it. It goes really quickly. I've just sort of put this on hold to finish the blanket and stuff like that. So, and it's being done with Piri, which is a Brooklyn Tweed wool yarn. And God, I got this at that Brooklyn Tweed event. I bought this kit like maybe 4 or 5 years ago at that Brooklyn Tweed event when they all came to Minneapolis, and you couldn't go, and I did. So yeah,
cool.
It's going very, very well. I think if I just sort of commit to doing several rows a day, it'll get done pretty quickly. And there's another sock still too. There's just one of two. So.
Oh right.
Right. It's not. Unfortunately, it's not.
This is
done.
Still the first sock. Yeah.
Right. We're going to half done. So. Anything else about this?
No, I think that one you've shown it several times.
Yeah.
It's just
Showing
showing the progress.
Right. And it's not much progress from last time. But I've been working on other stuff. So, what do you have left?
I have my hat.
Okay. Do you want to do your hat first or my hat first?
Sure. Well, I'll start with mine, and then yours can be the big finished
Ta-da!
one. Sorry, I've got mint in my teeth. Okay. So I'm doing this in my fancy new project bag, which is actually. Did I say this last time? It's a bag that... No, because I hadn't started this project yet. It's a bag when I bought some pillowcases off of Amazon. It came in this bag.
Who said that shoe bags are really good for...
I don't remember. You said that before, but
Yeah.
I think it was another...
Someone else said that.
YouTube knitter.
So I wouldn't have come up on my own. So
anyway, it's a fine bag for this. So I'm knitting this for my friend Gio. He does not knit, but the way that Big Brother and the internet algorithms work, our YouTube thing, our YouTube knitting show came up on his YouTube feed, and so he watched. Was it last episode or the episode before?
Not sure.
We were talking about those hats, and so he was like, I want a hat, because I had said that I was interested in knitting a hat for someone. I just hadn't decided who, or didn't know who, and he's like, I want a hat, which I love, because I had a conversation with another friend of mine today, and he's like, well, my kids would like hats.
I'm like, children hats take 5 minutes
yeah,
to make.
It's like, I love when people want something, that's super motivating. So anyway, Gio picked out the pattern
from this book.
Yeah, it's the Knitting the National Parks. We've shown it several of the last several episodes. It's Nancy Bates. It's an awesome book. It's a hat for every national park, design for every national park. And so Gio wanted a hat from a park that he'd been to. He and some friends of his did a big hiking trip to Zion, but he personally didn't particularly jive with the Zion hat design.
Okay.
But he has been to the Badlands.
Okay.
What am I trying to say? The Badlands National Park.
Which is the Midwest region.
Yes.
I was like trying to...
It's in North Dakota.
Yeah.
So,
So this is what the hat looks like, sort of based on the canyons and stuff like that.
Yeah, and if I look, let me see the thing for a second. If I look at this, if I remember correctly, the yarn was Big Sky Yarn Company, and I think I couldn't find the exact colorways that the pattern calls for. But I mean, obviously, you can just find some that look similar. So I ended up I went to several different yarn dyers that I really like. I started with Trilogy yarns. Looked at some of Nancy's yarn, looked at a bunch of different yarns, and I ended up settling on Madeline Tosh. I keep wanting to say Malabrigo, but it's Madeline Tosh. And they had two colorways that almost exactly matched these. So, and I don't think, yes, I do, because I'm already using it. So, can you hold up the picture and I'll yeah. So there you go. So this is the colorway that I ended up picking for the mountain or the ridges, and then this is the colorway that I ended up picking for the background. And so as you can see, it's really close to what's in the pattern.
I love this. It's beautiful.
Yeah, so and I don't know if actually that's showing up on camera, but it's got speckles in it, and it actually has speckles in it that kind of match. Or there's some speckles in this that kind of picks up this color.
Yeah, they look really good together.
So the yarn is, like I said, it's Madeline Tosh, and it's this colorway is rye bourbon.
Okay. Which we drink a bit of in this house.
We're drinking of right now. Oh, no, I don't know if we're drinking rye bourbon. I don't know what rye bourbon is. But anyway, we're drinking bourbon. And so that's that colorway, and it's both of them are Tosh Vintage, which is 100% superwash merino wool, and it is it doesn't say if it's, I can't tell if it's DK or worsted.
I think that's worsted.
Okay.
200 yards, 115. 100.
Yeah, 200 yards for 200 yards for 115 grams.
Oh no, that's because usually it's grams. The grams is 100.
Right.
So I don't know what that means.
Right.
So
this one is rye bourbon, And then the other one is,
Dimples out.
yeah. Go ahead and figure out what that one is.
Okay. And this one is called Josh Vintage was called
Silver Lining.
Okay.
So
I don't know if I would call that Silver Lining.
yeah, I wonder if it's like from Silver Lining Playbook, that movie or something.
Or,
don't
I
know.
mean...
There's no silver in it. Or is that...
I guess that could be silver, like right there. I don't know. I'm colorblind.
But
So-
it's beautiful yarn.
Mm-hmm.
And I have fallen in love with... and I think some of you talked about this when I mentioned it before. Mentioned it or you guys responded in the comments. Is I love pulling the yarn from the outside. I used to always pull from the center, but then you'd get going and then the cake would just collapse and it would become a big mess and you couldn't keep your ball band in the middle.
Yeah.
And so knitting it from the outside in is my new favorite thing.
Yeah, I don't think, I mean, people are like, oh, it'll mess up your tension, but I'm not sure that it does.
Well, and I do the thing where I pull out a bunch
Right.
so that it's loose. Or I unwind, a good several feet off and then knit with it. And then when I get down to where I can feel the tension, I pull some more out and go down. So, can you hand me the pattern again? Do you have any idea what page it was on?
54.
Oh, wait, you know what? Let me just use this. So the pattern calls for size 5 needles for the brim and size 7 or 3.75 millimeter for the brim and 4.5 millimeter for the body of the hat. And so I did I did 2 gauge swatches because I did it with the, this was with the original, what it called for. And I was very off.
It would have been for a very tiny head.
It would made it, yeah. So I ended up going up 2 needle sizes. So and I can't remember 2 U.S. needle sizes. So I can't remember. So the small was a 7, 4.5 millimeters, and the body of the hat. I'm sorry. Yes, the brim of the hat is a 7. I'm knitting with the 7.
Wow.
And then the body of the hat I'm knitting with a 9.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Is this
So-
it's DK weight yarn?
Worsted.
But we don't know if this is DK or worsted yet because of the grams and all
Yeah.
weird. So I wonder if that...
I'm pretty sure though. Hang on.
So if it calls for worsted and this is actually DK, it's worsted.
Worsted.
Huh.
Yeah, usually I have to go to smaller needles than the pattern calls for. So, I mean, I'm glad that's why you do a gauge swatch.
Right.
So, it doesn't, it's not, what am I trying to say? It's not like it's got big holes in it or anything.
No, it's fine.
I mean, I think it looks pretty good.
Yeah.
So, this
But it does make a big difference, like
Yeah.
that, in terms of like size of the swatch.
Well, and so anyway, and so I've modified the pattern slightly. I said the Badlands were in North Dakota. They're in South Dakota.
Oh no.
Yeah. So different state. So I modified the pattern. So the pattern has just a standard brim that is, it's like a 1x1 rib.
2x2.
It's 1x1.
2x2.
John, the pattern is 1x1. I modified the pattern.
Oh, it is?
Yes. This is not 1x1.
Okay. No, that's fine. I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about what you did. I'm like, that's 2x2.
No, the pattern calls for 1x1 rib.
Okay.
For the brim, and it's like 1.5 inches or something like that. It's a beanie. But I pretty much every hat that I knit, I do a 2x2 rib, and I knit like 4 inches, and then I double it, and then I fold it in half, and knit that together so that it's an automatically folded over brim.
Yep.
And then I start the body of the hat from that. And so that what came from I did that brim for the first time with, I think, the first hat that I knit, which was the Metropolitan hat.
From Rib Magazine.
Rib Magazine.
Right.
And what was my point? I just really love the thickness of that and that it's like, it's like a pre-folded over brim that keeps your ears warm. And in that pattern, it calls for a provisional cast on. And what I found is, and I really dislike doing a provisional cast on. So what I found is I just knit a 2x2 rib in the round, 4 inches. And then when it's time to start the body of the hat, I fold it over, or I do the fold, and then I pick up a stitch from the cast on edge, put it onto my
and knit it together.
Needle, and then knit them together into whatever stitch, whether it's a knit or a purl. And that works beautifully. So now I'm finally going to stop talking and show it. So this is what I've got so far. And as you can see, this is what the folded over brim looks like. And it's very, very stretchy, which is good. Because if you just hold it like this, it looks kind of small. But it's very stretchy. It's nice and thick, which is the part that's going to be over your ears. And you can't really see yet. Let me see if there's a better part than another. I'll just hold it like this. So you can start to see that I'm using the other color. So the rest of the... And I flipped through the book, and I think most of the hats... Well, I would assume all of the hats are probably charted.
Yes.
So, and I really like charts. So I'm started there's probably 3 or 4 rows of the chart at this point. And it's kind of I wouldn't say messy, but it's like not a super precise design that repeats or anything like that. So a couple times I've been like, oh wait, I was supposed to do this color when I did that color. Or the other thing is that it creates those the jagged hills on the hat by doing like
crossovers.
It does crossovers, but there's also some... Oh no, the make ones was when I was doing increasing from the brim to the body of the hat. So yeah, so anyway, it's been super fun. The yarn is amazing. I really wanted to use Nancy's Trilogy yarns. I think she has a whiskey colorway.
Yeah.
But it like wasn't the right size, or she's not doing that colorway anymore, or something like that. I think
I stole it from another project that I didn't finish.
No, I mean like I was going to buy it off of her site. And I should have just emailed her and asked her, but I was in a panic and I was like, I want to buy the yarn right now because I was all excited. So yeah, I'm really happy with the brim. Oh, and that was the other thing is the number of stitches that the pattern called for was not divisible by 4. So
you had to add stitches when you...
No. So what I thought was, well, I'm going to end up with 4 purls or 4 knits together at some point. But then as I was going, and as I was going along, I realized, well, wait a second. I must have been wrong about that because it ended up being perfect. And then when I got to the end of the brim and started increasing for the body of the hat, I'm like, wait a second, I'm off 2 stitches. How did I get off 2 stitches? Well, my whole brim is short by 2 stitches, which is how it ended up being divisible by 4.
Gotcha. Okay.
But 2 stitches in this brim isn't going to matter.
Yeah.
And if it does matter, Gio will tell me, and then I'll do something else and give this to somebody else with a smaller head. But
it'll be fine.
Yeah, but it'll be fine. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so I'm loving it. I love the pattern. I love the chart. It's teaching me. Oh no, I was gonna say because I've done make ones obviously, and the crossovers I might have done them before, but it's not. It's because there's left leaning and right leaning, and I don't remember having done that before. I guess it's kind of like a cable pattern.
Yeah,
yeah, but it's just 2 stitches instead of multiple stitches. So,
right.
Yeah. So that's that.
Excellent. All right. So, I am doing from the same book the Acadia hat.
You're not doing it.
Well, it's not done.
Oh, that's right. Spoiler alert. I keep doing that.
So, basically, it's done. This is what it's done. The base color, I don't know. It was some yarn we had hanging out.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
It's somewhere. I could look it up. I couldn't find the ball band, but this is lovely brown. And then the white is also, I think it's a, I don't know.
No, the white was the birch.
It's the birch, but I don't know who dyed it.
Right.
I'm not, it might be, so this is the white background is right here. Dyer unknown. And then the other two colors are Malabrigo. This is the gold, and this is the blue.
Is it Malabrigo Rios?
Yes, and they are.
I bet this one CL?
I don't know. One is
Ocher. Frank Ocher?
that doesn't sound right.
Yeah, that's right.
Frank Ocher.
Well, this is ochre. This is an ochre color.
Yeah, the Frank part I understand.
Oh, I don't either.
And the other one is Aquamarine. So, yeah.
These are Malabrigo Rios is worsted.
Sure.
So it's 100 and
210 yards per 100 grams.
yeah.
200, yeah, so that's worsted. So, yeah, I mean, so the original pattern is white with kind of a black and a gray. It sort of look like birch trees.
So the blue and the gold in the pattern, it calls for it to be black and gray.
Yes, yes. So you would have these little sort of these patches that would look like birch bark, basically. But because this one already had the black specks in it, I wanted to do kind of the gold of the leaves and the blue of the sky. So this is done.
I can put it on my head so it doesn't, since you would have to mess up your hair.
I know. So blocked it pretty aggressively because it was actually pretty small, I think.
Yeah.
It's still a pretty snug hat. And then I'm going to use more of this yarn right here to make a pom-pom.
And who are you giving this to?
Jenny.
You are giving it to Jenny.
Yeah, because our friends Jenny and Greg are actually going to Acadia, which is the park it's named after. I think this summer or fall. So
where is Acadia? Oh, is it in Maine?
It's in Maine, yeah.
Oh, that's right. I was talking to Greg today, and
Yeah.
he mentioned going to Acadia, and I was like, why does that sound familiar?
So yeah, I mean, I liked this pattern a lot. It was very easy to knit.
Well, let's do this. Let's show it's always fun to look at the decreases of a hat.
And the decreases are nice. Yeah, I very much enjoyed it. It was a pretty quick knit. I think I did in like maybe 2.5, 3 weeks, maybe.
Yeah.
So I think last time I showed it, it was maybe I think I just started here. I can't remember. So yeah, it's done. I'll do the pom-pom. I actually found this there are like 8 million make your own pom-pom tutorials, but I found one that I really liked. So I'm going to probably do that sometime this week, and then it'll be all ready to go.
Yay.
I know. Very fun.
Are you going to do the thing where you leave tie the pom-pom on with a because you can leave strings hanging from it and then tie it to the inside of the hat so that if they need to
wash it
or something,
I'm
just gonna
attach it. I'm not gonna worry about it. It's a hand knit hat. It's a beautiful hand knit. Don't put it in the
washing machine.
Yeah. Because I've seen the ones I've put pom poms on before that they bought where you put it's like a little snap almost.
Yeah.
But I don't want to do that. That seems like a lot of work.
Yeah.
So I will not do that. Sorry, Jenny. You will have to wash the hat with a pom-pom on it.
Yeah.
So.
All right.
And then because I'm done with 2 projects, I need to find my next projects. And so I've actually picked out 2 projects.
Oh.
One is Very Pink Knits has 2 at a time toe-up socks. So I bought that pattern. I'm going to start that because it looks really fun. And I actually picked up my yarn for it today. I think I'm going to do Smells Like a Goat.
Oh,
socks.
Trilogy yarn. Smells
Exactly.
like a goat.
So, so yeah, that'll be fun. Let's see. And it's basically 2 at a time socks, which I tried doing that once on my own, but this is it's a paid pattern, and what it comes with is links to tutorials where she's
amazing.
She has the best tutorials, I think, or some of the best tutorials. And she's like, "Hey, dummy, do this." So yeah, I'm gonna start those, and then I have another hat that I want to get started on, not from this book, but from one that I bought a while ago. That's based on I forget who the designer is, but did a bunch of hats based on famous domes.
Oh, cool.
And so this is based on this really cool Art Deco dome in Vienna.
Wow.
So, yeah, I bought it a long time ago. I might use this yarn for it. Because it's...
Because of the color?
Well, because the color of the dome is this, like, it's like this gold Art Deco, like, flowers on planet, and this would actually be a really good color for it. So the pattern calls for bulky, and this is not bulky.
No, it's not. But you could hold it together.
We'll see. Or I can go into our stash and find something.
Yeah. And then my next project that I want to do is I want to knit a garment for Betty Ann. She already knows about it. And who was the... Oh, it was a Spouse Tricot. I don't know if it's their... It is a recent episode where they were talking about different summer garments and knitting with cotton and linen and blends of cotton and linen and all of that. And so Betty Ann told me which one that she liked that were on that show. And so I'm going to... I did buy the pattern. I'll talk about that in a future episode, but I think that's going to... I haven't bought any yarn or anything for it yet.
Cool.
All right, we are back.
We are back after this commercial break.
We have fresh drinks.
We're going to need them. We have a lot to unpack.
This is the movie review part of our YouTube, of our podcast, of our YouTube show. And we have
a double
the
header.
best movies. Sorry. The best movie and the worst movie of 2012.
Yes. As selected by the Academy Awards and the Razzies.
Correct.
Your opinion may differ.
Yes.
So I feel we should do this. I feel like the best picture is interesting,
Okay.
but the worst picture is amazing. So I feel we should start with the best picture,
Okay.
and then we can go into the fiasco disaster beauty that is Breaking Dawn Part 2.
Yes. Okay, sounds good.
So,
Oh,
2012, best picture went to Argo. Oh no.
somebody wants to say hello.
Scott is
don't
trying to...
scratch me. I don't know if he can. I don't know if he's on camera. But that's
Hi, buddy. He's a good boy. He's like...
We'll be done in just a little bit, I promise.
He
We'll
loves
hang out
Breaking
with you.
Dawn. He loves
He
it
loves
so
movie
much.
reviews.
He
We'll hang out
does.
with you soon, okay? I promise. Just give us a few more minutes. Mwah. Okay, can you get down for me? Big old dog. Okay.
Big old dog.
Your
All
turn.
right. So, the best movie, or the Academy Award for the best movie went to Argo, 2012. Starred and directed by Ben Affleck, which is based on the true story of, well, I mean, we're going to get into the parts that were maybe a little different, about a rescue of 6 hostages who were being held out of Iran in 1979. Couple of interesting things about it is Ben Affleck was not nominated for Best Director.
Okay.
That was the first time that's happened since Driving Miss Daisy in 1989.
Well, that was the first time what happened.
That the Best Picture was directed by someone who was not nominated for Best Director.
Okay.
Usually they kind of go hand in hand, but sometimes you get nominated, you don't win. But he wasn't even nominated for Best Director. And it was also the first Best Picture winner that the director wasn't nominated, and none of the actors were nominated for an award either. Since Grand Hotel in 1939, I think.
Wow.
So yeah. It's usual. So like the 4 best picture, 3 other pictures have been like that, where the director has not been nominated, but the picture won. That's Wings, Grand Hotel, and Driving Miss Daisy. And then Grand Hotel also was not none of the actors were nominated for any awards. So yeah, it was a movie, the best picture.
Are there any theories on why that was?
I think I don't know. I mean, I think part of it is that there were 8 other Best Picture nominees, so there were only 5 Best Director nominees, so it kind of gets split up a little bit, I think.
Yeah.
I think part of it might be a little bit that I don't know if he had nominations before, but he had won an Oscar already for Good Will Hunting for the Best Screenplay. I don't know, maybe they didn't think he'd put in his dues or whatever. So I'm not an Academy voter, and I don't need to know. But it also won Best Picture, Best Adapted Screenplay, because it was based off a book and an article that was written about the whole thing, and Best Editing.
All right.
So yeah, let's see what else. Budget was 44 million. It made 232 million in the box office.
Pretty good.
And then a couple other things.
My movie, the worst movie, made 4 times that.
Yes,
But we'll get to that.
We'll talk about why that was. So the other best pictures of the year were nominees were Amour, Beast of the Southern Wild, Django Unchained, Les Mis, Life of Pi, and Ang Lee won Best Director for Life of Pi.
Oh, okay.
Which we can talk.
I love Life of Pi. I know you don't.
No, I thought it was really good. I liked it a lot. Lincoln, Steven Spielberg, Silver Linings Playbook by I don't know who directed that. And then Zero Dark 30. So of those movies,
I've seen several of those.
I've seen Silver Lining Playbook, Lincoln, Life of Pi, Les Mis, and Django Unchained. And I would say this is as good as those movies. The ones that I've seen.
Yeah, I've seen Zero Dark 30, Silver Linings Playbook. Did we see Lincoln together? I don't remember seeing Lincoln myself.
I think we rented it at one point.
Okay. Maybe I did see it. So I've seen...
And it's got Daniel Day-Lewis as Lincoln and Sally Field as Mary Todd Lincoln.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I've seen all of these except for...
Amour. It's a French film.
And then Beast of the Southern Wilds. I haven't seen either of those.
Yeah.
What's this one?
Other Best Pictures.
Oh. Okay.
So I would say, thinking about the ones that I've seen and this one, I would say, and maybe this is why it won, it's it is as good as those movies, I think, but it's not heads and shoulders above those. Sometimes you see that and oh, this is clearly the best movie of the year. So I think it's about the same level as the other movies I've seen on that list.
Okay.
Would you agree?
This is one of those situations where, I think it's been a long time since I've seen any of these movies, and it's kind of, do they do subcategory? Do they do categories? They don't do categories at all. Best drama, best comedy.
That's a Golden Globes thing.
Oh, it is a Golden Globes thing. Yeah, because for me, it's hard to compare. I mean, it's just, it's a personal thing. I don't like the movie version of Les Mis because I like the musical version
because they cast Russell Crowe in it, and he can't.
My God. Oh. Anyway, I loved Life of Pi, but how do you compare Life of Pi to Django Unchained or Zero Dark 30? I mean, all of these were really good movies, I think. I mean, this is the second or third time I've seen Argo. And it's really compelling.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that it's based on true events, too.
We'll get to that.
Yeah.
I would say,
you want to give... Are you planning to give, a brief synopsis at some point? Okay.
I of those movies, I mean, and certainly when I watched it, I think I'd seen it in the theaters and saw it now, and I certainly... It holds up as a good movie. It wasn't I was this is so much better. So some of these movies you've watched again, like Titanic and things I was surprised at how good it was. If that makes sense. King's Speech was the same way.
Do you mean
watching it again? I'm oh wow, this is a really good movie. And this one's it was this is still a good movie, but I wasn't blown away again by it. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Were you blown away the first time?
I really enjoyed it both times.
Okay.
But I wasn't this is fantastic. This is a really well made, well directed, well put together movie.
Gotcha.
So what this is about is in 1979, there was the revolution in Iran, and the Iranian civil guard students. I can't remember exactly what happened. They sort of took over the U.S. embassy and took the folks in the embassy, the Americans in the embassy, hostage. Basically, they were very angry because the U.S. wouldn't extradite the Shah, who was the person they overthrew, back to Iran. So they occupied the U.S. embassy and took the people working there hostage. I think they were there for 400 days or something like that. It was that. I remember that happening. I remember the yellow ribbons around the trees and stuff like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
because you were about 5.
I was at 5. Yeah.
So I was 2.
Right.
So I don't remember it.
So I remember that happening. I remember being like, "Oh, the Ayatollah's bad," but whatever. And he kind of is.
And you remember that. I'm talking to Betty Ann, my
Right.
mother, off camera.
I do.
Because Dad was in the Navy when that was happening, wasn't he? Wasn't he?
What year was it?
1979? Or was he out of the Navy at that
It was
point?
out of the Navy.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, what happened was 6 Americans who work in the embassy escaped the initial occupation, and they eventually went into the Canadian ambassador's embassy, and it was becoming really hard to keep them there, just for a lot of reasons. And they smuggled them out by creating this fake science fiction movie and pretending that these people were Canadians and they had been there scouting locations for this movie which they called Argo, and used that as a cover story to bring these people out of Iran. So yeah, it's someone, I read a review of it, said it's basically set up like a caper movie or a heist movie where you have like the impossible situation, you have the crazy idea that you have to sell to your, people who don't believe at the top, and then the execution, which is like suspenseful and like lots of fun, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I think that's actually a pretty good description of the plot.
Except the stakes are much higher.
They are, yeah. So for sure. But
I'm not disagreeing.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, it's like that concept, but with the stakes,
Right, with really high
ratcheted
stakes.
up.
Yeah. So a couple of things. There are a couple of things. So I don't know if you'll remember the movie, but there was a couple of things that were
Exaggerated.
changed for dramatic purposes. So one of them, like the end scene, has them like there's a last minute showdown where the passports are trying to get clear, the tickets are being cleared, and they're trying to go through the customs, go to the immigration, and there are people chasing the plane with guns and stuff like that, and they take off and they're okay. None of that happened. Like they went to the airport, the passports had been, the tickets had been approved like a long time ago, like that whole thing. They're calling the White House, approve the passports, or that didn't happen. And they left, and it was like 5:30 in the morning. They're all on different planes, so it went really smoothly as part of it.
They were all on different planes?
Yeah, they took 3 different flights out.
Interesting.
And the other thing is, it was interesting, so it was basically the person, so obviously the CIA was involved in it, and that wasn't really known until the 90s, but one of the criticisms is that the person who did most of the work was the Canadian ambassador.
Yeah.
So
And they made it
seem like he was kind of a caretaker, and this other guy, the CIA guy, who clearly did a lot of work, but made it seem like he did probably more than he did. The other thing is
let's talk about that for a minute, because in the movie, according to the movie,
right,
the United States government gave all of the credit to the Canadian government.
Yes.
And the subtext is that it's a cover-up because they don't want, I don't know, whomever to know that, I don't know if it's the Iranian government.
Well, they didn't want to endanger the American hostages, right?
Oh, right, because they still had all the American hostages.
Right. So when it came out, it was all the credit was given to the Canadian ambassador and the Canadian government, and the Iranians were very upset about that. But
because in the movie they make a deal about the fact that the Americans are like,
no one can.
Why can't America pull something like that off? Why is it that only Canada can pull something like that off?
Right.
And when in the movie it was actually in the movie they made it out to be that the Americans did all of the work.
Right. And it seems like it was a lot more of, Anyway, so I mean, I'm not saying that what happened didn't happen, but I think the stakes were ratcheted up a little bit, and it was.
Well, it was a Hollywood movie.
It was a Hollywood
movie.
movie,
It was made to be,
which was financed by the CIA's public PR. The movie got money from the CIA too.
Oh, that's interesting.
I'm just like, that seems a little weird. And then another thing that happens is like they have a thing where at the first scene, the Americans are at the Canadian embassy and they say, we were turned away by the British and the New Zealand embassies, which was not true.
Oh.
The New Zealand embassies and the British embassies actually sheltered them initially at great risk to themselves. And so Ben Affleck was actually censured by the New Zealand House of Representatives for that. they're like, you are...
Why would you do that? Do you think he just didn't know any better and he just thought it was an interesting plot point?
He wanted to up the stakes.
Yeah, I guess.
He wanted to make it seem like these people had no place to go.
Yeah.
It was kind of like, so in the movie, they're in the embassy and they have to stay inside all the time and they have to hide under the floors. Apparently the Canadians has a big courtyard and they can walk around outside all the time. I mean, it was just,
Yeah, they changed things for dramatic effect,
right,
of course.
Right. But I thought that was like particularly like you actually, said that these people who actually helped these people didn't help them. And that was a little meh. And he kind of apologized for that in a interview afterwards. So yeah, I mean, I liked it. I liked it a lot. It's a really well-made movie. It's funny because I was like thinking about like who's in the movie, and I was like looking at it, I'm like, okay, so he's in it. He's the main guy. Like the guy from Breaking Bad's in it. Alan Arkin's in it.
What guy from Breaking Bad?
The main guy, Walter White.
I know. I'm just for our audience.
Yeah, that's all I know. He was also Malcolm in the Middle, the father from Malcolm in the Middle. He was in it.
Victor Garber
is the Canadian ambassador.
Yeah.
And the hostages are played by actors. I don't know. I mean, it's definitely one of those movies where you're like, oh, these performances are really good. Like they're all fine, but like no one gives like this like where you're like, oh my god, this is like kind of like when the King's Speech. Like you're like these two main actors are doing this amazing performance.
Yeah.
And I said this movie is very good, if that makes sense. It's very kind of unassumingly good. So
yeah.
But yeah. Let me see what else. Yeah, I mean, again, it's a good movie. That's all I have to say. I would also say, like, watch it, do some research.
So, well, that's just the thing, is it's hard when a movie is based on true events. Mm-hmm. It's very popular, and then I think the tendency is for all of us to believe that those events occurred as what is portrayed in the movie.
Right. It's not a documentary. Like that's the other thing. Like it's not meant to be a documentary. I just think I have a little problem when the only thing that really bothered, like it was, I don't know if like you could have made a compelling movie without the walking to the airport and then being questioned and all this like last minute phone calls. Like
I liked that.
I like that too, but it's like one of the things that's interesting is like actually the people who were doing this knew what they were doing. There wasn't this like, calling, we've got to go and track down this person and pretend that his kids are in school and stuff like there was all this like shenanigans. Like that was like, kind of like why it's like a heist, right? Yeah. You keep upping the stakes and like there's a last minute phone calls and like that didn't happen. And like, I think getting people out of Iran during the hostage crisis might have been enough.
Yeah, although then it would have been a documentary.
Right, but I think you could have done it without stuff that's not demonstrably false, like them being chased on a runway with guns and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because there was stuff like the stuff where they're talking about like the kids. So they had these. So when they took over the MC, they shredded everything, right?
Right.
And they had children putting together the documents. So going through shredded piles, and they showed like there's enough really.
That really happened.
Yes, that really happened. And so like I don't know if like Anyway, again, it was a good movie. I liked it. I think the historical inaccuracies bothered me a little bit more, especially because the first time I saw it, I didn't realize they were, so I enjoyed it more, and then I read it, I'm like, so.
Yeah, I guess that doesn't bother me so much.
So speaking of historical inaccuracies.
Now let's talk about the worst movie of the year, which...
Is it?
Is it?
Is it?
Twilight... Or I think it's the Twilight series, Breaking Dawn, Part 2. So, this movie is based on the very popular Twilight series of books, young adult vampire romance novels written by Stephanie Meyer, and these books were hugely successful. I read every single one of them, and I'm not ashamed to say so. I do a lot of things in my life because it's funny to do them. What is that called? Is that doing things ironically?
Sure.
Kind of ironically?
It's like watching The Bachelor.
Yeah, it's like...
You enjoy it, but you also enjoy it. It's like you enjoy it, but you also get to enjoy it ironically, yeah. There's a word for that. I can't remember what it is.
Yeah. So it's. I'm not earnest. I'm not being earnest when I say that the Twilight books are like my favorite books. They're obviously not my favorite books, but it's fun to pretend and say that. Yes, I enjoyed those books, but I also know that they're problematic and it's an abusive relationship and all of that. But it's fun to say, oh my god, they're my favorite books ever. So.
But I have a question for you.
Okay.
Are the Twilight books and movies ever dull?
No.
Yeah.
No. Not at all.
Yeah.
So let me get through this. So no, actually, do interrupt and ask me questions because that makes it more interesting. Oh, I know you will. So this was the very final movie in the entire series. So prior to this, I think it was prior to this or around this time, they had made.
It's the
Harry Potter
disease. Where they split up the last two.
The last book into two movies.
Right.
So this was the second movie. And so I don't know that I ever saw this movie. All the other movies I saw opening night and midnight. Some friends of mine and I who also loved the books went. And every time one of these movies opened, we went at midnight and watched it. So this book... so the concept of this movie, and I'm going to try not to take forever to tell this story.
So can we just interrupt?
Yeah.
So we watched this movie. We watched these. So we clearly... So we went to a cabin last summer with all of our neighbors.
Picture it, Sicily.
Picture it...
How far back are you going?
Pelican Lake. This last summer.
Oh, right.
And... we have some friends who really liked the Twilight movies. And so we watched Twilight 1, 2, and 3. Twilight, New Moon, and Eclipse with them. So we were already sort of prepped to go into this one. And so we had to watch... So we're talking about a complex universe based on, like, a series of books that has, like, really weird mythology. Luckily, our friend Shannon across the street, who has read the books many, many, many times, was there to help us through. Yes. It was like watching like Game of Thrones with me. It was like watching these movies with the living, breathing Wikipedia article. Exactly. It was pretty awesome. Yes. So we should thank Shannon. So we would, because we were like, Shannon, what is going on? She's like, oh, well, this, and this person has this power, and blah, blah. And the Verturi do this. Anyway, it was really low. Yeah. So shout out to Shannon. Shout out to Shannon. So this movie, quick overview of the movie. The two main characters, Edward and Bella. Bella's a human. Edward's a vampire. They're in love. Bella wants to be a vampire so that they can live together forever. In the first movie, she agrees to marry him. And the reason that she agrees to marry him is so that they can have sex. And, well, I mean, and also because she wants to marry him. Right. Because their love is pure and amazing. Their love is pure and, yeah, whatever. So, they have sex. Somehow she gets pregnant. And... In Breaking One Part 1. That's what I said. I think in the first movie, like the Twilight. Oh, no. The first part of the last, the Part 1. Breaking Dawn Part 1. And she almost dies because the baby needs human blood and blah, blah, blah. So, at the end of the first movie, the baby is born and she opens her eyes and you can tell that she's become a vampire because to save her life, they gave her Edward's blood. Can you tell us what also happened in the last movie with Jacob? Oh, so Jacob, who's the third person in the love triangle, who's in love with Bella as well. And Bella has complicated feelings with Jacob. And what is Jacob? Jacob is a werewolf. And... well, he's not a werewolf. That's not true. He turns into a wolf. Not like the full moon or anything like that, but like when he needs to defend his tribe or whatever. Right. So, the baby is born, and Jacob, the wolves in this universe, imprint
on the love of their life. Well, he imprints on the infant baby as soon as it's born.
So messed up.
So that's the first movie. But that's not what we're here to talk about. The second movie is all about the fact that all of those relationship things are complicated, but it's all leading to this big confrontation between the Volturi, who are this super powerful group of vampires in Italy who basically set the rules for the world of vampires so that they are not exposed to the humans and can keep living their existence, living their best vampire lives. Yeah. And so the end of the movie is this huge confrontation between the Volturi and their allies, and then everybody else, Bella and Edward and their family and the wolves, and it's like they all become friends and fight against the Volturi. Okay, so that's the overview. We'll get into some more details as we go, but...
So I just want you to pause really quickly and just think about the sentences you just said and how insane they all are.
Yes.
So it's yeah, okay.
Never dull.
Never dull and never sane.
Never sane. A little crazy, and it was fun to watch it with our friends because we were making fun of it the whole time, but secretly we loved it at the same time. I did. Shannon did, and Tracy did, and you didn't.
I secretly loved it until the part.
Oh yeah, well I've got that. I've got that written down
right.
here,
Right.
Yes.
I almost secretly loved it, and then I was like, "This is garbage."
Yes. So it was directed by Bill Condon, who had directed 20 movies prior to this. And okay, so he directed Dreamgirls and maybe Chicago. I don't know. I didn't write that one down, but I know he directed about 20 movies. He wrote the screenplay for Greatest Showman, Dreamgirls, Chicago, and so I thought it was interesting because that doesn't really line up with this movie. It's not really a musical. I don't know. It was kind of, and I don't know. He might have directed other ones of the Twilight movies, but I'm not sure.
I think he did part one also.
Okay. Oh yeah. I know he did part one, but so the screenplay was written by Melissa Rosenberg, who did Jessica Jones, the TV show, Dexter, the TV show. She wrote the screenplay for all the Twilight movies.
Okay.
So I thought that was interesting. And then both parts of the movie were filmed between November 2010 and April 2011. So not a lot, it was like 5 or 6 months in Baton Rouge and Vancouver.
So, I mean, what is interesting about this is like, these are all very talented people.
Yes.
He's a good director, good writer. I would argue that the actors are all good actors.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We haven't talked about that because it was Robert Pattinson, Kristen Stewart, a small part by
Michael Sheen.
Oh, Michael Sheen. Yeah, actually a big part by Michael Sheen. But who's the woman who? I'm gonna take it for the long way round from the Pitch Perfect movies.
Anna Kendrick.
Yes, Anna Kendrick.
I think it's Sarah Bareilles. What?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so these are all very people who are very good at making movies.
Yeah. So, it was the 6th highest grossing film of the year. I did not write down the other ones are, but it made $829 million worldwide, and the budget was $120 million.
Okay.
So it had a $340 million worldwide opening, which was the 8th largest ever.
Yep.
And, I mean, it had a huge fan base. I remember going to these movies. I didn't go to this one opening night, but I remember going to the movies and, like, just every theater was showing Twilight that night. And it was just, like, a madhouse. Of course, it was all, like, 14-year-old girls and me, but that's okay. So, it has a 49% rating on Rotten Tomatoes.
Okay.
Which most of the reviews when I read them said that the Twilight fans, this is an amazing movie for the Twilight fans, but it's not going to convert you to being a Twilight fan.
Sure.
This movie and the other movies.
Yeah.
Because it's like they're good movies for the Twilight fans, but, I don't know. So for the people that read the book, I mean.
Right.
So I think you've talked about before that, like in the movies, the Razzies that they really pile on.
Yes.
So it's not like the Oscars where they try to balance things out or they try to do a vote and
Right.
It's part of it is being funny. So it got worst movie, worst actress for Kristen Stewart, but she won it for 2 movies, that and Snow White,
Right.
and The Huntsman.
Yeah.
Worst supporting actor for Taylor Lautner.
Okay.
Worst screen couple for Taylor Lautner and the baby. Renesmee.
I'm sorry. So Renesmee, worst name ever. It was a combination of their 2 parents.
The 2 moms' names.
So
the
Renesmee
2 grandmothers'
So
names.
Renesmee is not only a half human, half vampire. She also ages at a different rate than other people.
Right. It's like she ages quickly, but
Right.
then she slows down.
Yeah.
She grew up fast
Yeah.
and got to be an adult fast,
Right.
but then she lives a really long time
Yeah.
after that. Yeah.
It's so weird.
Worst sequel,
Okay.
worst director,
Okay.
and worst ensemble was awarded to the entire cast.
I think that one's unfair.
One thing that I think was super hilarious was that Alan Menken. I'm sorry, this has nothing to do with this movie. Sorry, I wrote a note down for myself, but this has nothing to do with this movie. This has to do with the Razzies. Alan Menken commented on and took pride in the fact that he's the only person that has a REGOT.
Oh, a Razzie,
A Razzie, Emmy,
Grammy.
Grammy, Oscar, and a Tony. Because he got a Razzie for High Times, Hard Times from the movie Newsies.
Okay.
So I'm going to have to hold it like this so you stop reading
Okay.
and actually make eye contact with me. So for the baby, like you were talking about the baby, like aged up quickly. So there were 10 actresses that played, which I don't remember like 10 different stages of her.
I thought it was just like one thing with a CGI face the
well,
whole
the
time.
CGI baby. There was a CGI baby and then 10 actresses.
I felt even the actresses looked their
I
CGI
agree.
face. Okay.
Yeah. So, but that's what it said. And then, okay. So here's, let's get into the part that reason that you didn't like it.
Okay.
So John was really loving the movie.
So, all right.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, the Twilight movies are insane. Literally insane. Like,
Yeah.
they have an internal logic that makes no sense, but it does. And like, so, but
I'm sorry. Did you read any of the books?
I read the first one, and the first book made me very angry.
Okay, because of the abusive relationship.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
I
It
read
was
all
basically how to have an abusive relationship, but it's super cool because the vampire loves you.
right. So I read all the books, and you keep saying they're insane and the, internal logic that makes no sense. I don't know if it's because I read the books or what, but I don't. Yes, they're insane, but they're not any more insane than
Like Harry
Interview
Potter.
with a Vampire or Harry Potter or it's just.
I don't know.
I mean, except for certain aspects of it, like. I want to kill you, but I love you, and I want to
feel
suck
like
your blood.
I feel like it's one of those things that it's like all this crazy stuff is happening, and like the people are like, "Oh yeah, that's just the way it goes."
Yeah.
Like they're like, "Oh yeah, it's like all this." It's so. What is happening is just bonkers, and the people are like, "Oh yeah, no, that's just the way things are." The Vituris and the Colons have always hated each other, and we're gonna, of course, fight to the death because of this.
Yeah, and I think. You're smart enough to realize this, but I do think that part of that is so the books, it's all of that is played out over 300 pages.
Right,
You
right.
know, and so it's like the Cullen and Volturi, whatever.
Right.
History is all explained.
Right.
And because there's what, 4 or 5 books? 4 books?
$4, yeah.
And as far as the emotional parts of it and the romance part of it, that, as you can imagine, it's Bella's inner monologue for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages.
Right.
So you start to, you identify,
It's like Stockholm Syndrome.
Right, exactly. You begin to understand.
Speaking of hostage taking, right?
You get to understand why Bella feels the way that she does. But, so at the end of this movie, there's the giant confrontation.
Right.
And do you want to talk about that part?
So there's this huge battle, right? And so it's the bad Italian vampires and their allies, and the Cullens and their allies, and there's this big vampire fight. Vampire wolves are, of course, involved. And all of a sudden, people start getting killed.
Important good people.
Important good and important bad people. Like, there's these really dramatic, like, deaths. And I'm like, oh. So what this always needed was stakes, right? Because if the stakes are just, can Ella, Edward, and Bella be together? You're just like, these people are going crazy because of this love story. But like, oh, this is actually a real battle, right? So I was like, that got interesting to me for a moment. And then there is a moment that is literally like Bobby Ewing walking out of the shower in Dallas.
Yeah.
We're like, oh.
Because they zoom in on Alice, who can see the future. It zooms in on Alice's eye, and you realize that
all the good stuff you were excited about was just her vision.
Yeah. So then
made me so mad.
I don't remember. I mean, we just watched it, but I don't remember if she relays that.
No, because she's communicating with the head. Here's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And then it ends. So finally, the last scene before it goes back to Bobby Ewing in the shower is like the Michael Sheen's character, the head virtually, dies. And she's like, this is what will happen if you fight. And then he's like, never mind, we're good.
Yeah.
And then Aaron walks off all happy and shit. And I'm just like...
So Bill Condon, the director, wanted to change it so that all of those deaths were real.
I would
He worked really hard to make that happen. And Stephanie Meyer got together with the producers and forced him to direct the ending as it is in the movie, where it matches the book.
Right, because like if that's... And I don't... From a movie standpoint, I disagree with that. But if you need the crux of these books to be like, this love is so important, it's not so important that all these people die for it.
Right.
Like, Bella and Edward's happiness is not worth Jasper dying. We all like Jasper a lot. Yeah. No, but like, and like the Cullen parents die, and like, that their happiness is not worth those deaths.
Right.
So I think
But I would argue, though, that their relationship is just the impetus for the conflict, just the impetus for the confrontation between, and the attempt to overthrow the Volturi, because the Volturi were not elected into their power. They just are the most powerful vampires, therefore they set the rules.
Yeah, but I think also, like, you're supposed to root for this couple, and it's hard to root for a couple when them getting together caused all this destruction. But if it doesn't cause this, it's a happy ending.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm not Bella or Edward, but like the end of the movie couldn't be happy because they would be haunted by the deaths of all the people.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It would be a really dark ending.
It would be a French movie instead of an American movie.
Right.
But I do think though that let's say that all those people really did die, and the people that are left behind, or the people that are fighting the battle or dying in that moment.
Yeah.
It's not. I don't think that they're doing it for Edward and Bella alone. I think what their motivation is, if Bella and Edward can't be together, they're not going to leave any of us alone. They're not going to let any of us live our lives. The Volturi are just going to control us. Yeah. It's just that this happens to be the relationship that brings it to a head.
Right. But I also think, I mean, it's like the, I don't know. But I do... It became a more exciting when people were dying. And then when they weren't dying, and it was just, this is what will happen if you fight. I was very disappointed. I didn't quite get up and throw my popcorn down, but I kind of did.
I think the other thing that we've talked about before we've talked about it with our friends, we've talked about it on our YouTube show before, but different people are different.
Right.
And so, like, for example, we've talked about the fact that, like, what does a best friend mean to you? Or what does friendship mean to you? I do think that there are some of us in the world who, like, this book and the love that they have or whatever, there's a romantic, there's something that's appealing about that. Sure. The intensity of that love.
Right.
And the just being a romantic and all of that. Right. And then there are other people in the world
who are like, why are you being idiots?
Exactly.
So I want to talk really quickly about the performances. Because
Okay.
I'm going to argue that Kristen Stewart is actually a good actress in this movie.
Well, that was actually commented a lot when I
Yeah.
read the reviews.
Yeah.
Is they talked about how they kind of took the leash off of her,
Right.
and she could be her true self, or she could stretch her wings as an actress
Right.
instead of being this like
Yeah. I would say that
troubled 14-year-old.
But I think and I've not read all the books, but I think her portrayal of Bella Swan is pretty close to the books.
it
right?
is. It absolutely.
So
is.
I think she got a lot of hate for this performance, but I can't imagine anyone else doing this any better.
No, and I mean the character of Bella through the whole books was you wanted to shake her because you wanted to strangle her because she was so self-hating
And self-absorbed at the same time.
and self-absorbed at the same time, which a lot of teenagers.
Yeah, no, I mean that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's not an unrealistic portrayal of she's 17 to 18 in this movie, 17 to 19 in this movie.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think Robert Pattinson is not as good as she is, but he's an object.
Well, he's gone on to do
yeah.
amazing stuff.
But I think it's also because I think Edward is not as good of a role.
Yeah.
You're there to be moody and hot.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, I would say I don't know. I mean, I don't know what else was up for. I looked at the other Razzie films that year, and they weren't anything I knew.
That's why I didn't write them down.
So, but what I would say is that, Twilight, Breaking Dawn, Part 2, is everything I expect from the worst movie of the year the Razzies get.
See,
I feel like the Razzies are not when they're given out correctly, they're not given to bad movies. They're given to fiascos, right?
Oh, that's a good
They
way
need
put
to
it.
be.
So remind me. I know as soon as you say it, I'm going to remember. But what are the two other Razzies that we've watched?
So we've watched Airbender Avatar: Last Airbender,
Oh yeah,
which was okay.
it was okay.
And
but
the
that one was a fiasco because of the fan base and how it was such a colossal
It was a colossal disappointment of
disappointment to the fan
and the
base.
Postman, which was just long.
Yeah, the Postman.
I haven't seen Waterworld. I feel Waterworld is more of a fiasco than that. But yeah, I mean, I've watched all the Twilight movies now.
Did you think you'd ever say that?
I don't know. And I have real issues with a lot that's in them, but they are never dull.
Right.
They are always, it's a roller coaster of crazy, and I love movies like that.
Yeah.
So
let's look at what our next year is going to be.
Yes, I've got my random number generator.
Okay, let me
ready to
pull
go.
up the.
Okay. Doopa 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 doopa. 1987.
Ooh.
So it's going to be the 87 ceremony with the 86 movies.
Okay.
We've not gone to the 80s yet.
Oh God.
Okay.
Oh no.
Is it Last Emperor?
No, but I love that movie.
Okay.
Hang on a second. I just want to make sure that it's the 1987 awards for the 1980. Yeah, honoring movies released in 1986.
Okay.
The best movie that year, Platoon.
Never seen it.
Oh, really?
Never seen it.
I've seen it.
Okay.
So it's good. Okay.
I know it has Adagio for strings in it. Or maybe I have seen it. I can't remember. I think I might have seen it. I don't remember if I did.
Okay, so the 7th Golden Raspberry Award. So it was only the 7th. Were recognized the worst the movie industry had to offer in 1986. The worst picture was a tie.
Yes. Okay. Bring it on.
Oh, wow. This is going to be a problem. Howard the Duck.
Okay.
Which I've seen probably 15 times.
Okay.
Because it was one of those movies that was like on HBO or
Sure.
Showtime and Mom had cable. And so it's like, but back then HBO would show the same movie 15 times a day. So I've seen Howard the Duck. I probably at one point in my life had it memorized.
I've never seen Howard the Duck.
And Under the Cherry Moon.
It's a Prince movie.
Oh, okay. I know nothing about Under the Cherry Moon.
It's a Prince movie, and it
A
stars
1986 romantic musical comedy drama film starring Prince and marking his directorial debut.
And-
The film also stars the Time member Jerome Benton.
and Kristen.
The former The Time member Jerome Benton.
And Kristen Stewart.
Stephen Burkhoff, Kristen Scott Thomas,
Kristen
and Francesca Annis.
Oh, I like both those actresses. Francesca Annis is Lady Jessica from the '84 Dune.
The soundtrack, although the movie did badly, the soundtrack album Parade sold over 1 million copies and achieved platinum status.
Okay. So I guess we'll have a triple header.
Yes, we will.
I wonder... Yeah, maybe I've seen Platoon. I cannot remember.
Howard the Duck, I have a feeling there's not going to be much to talk about with Howard the Duck, because it's like Howard the Duck is an alien and he lands on Earth, and...
Isn't he a duck that's like super horny all the time? That's like the joke.
I think so.
Yeah.
He likes hot for human women or something.
For Leah Thompson, the mother.
And then there's the guy that got in trouble that, like, the main actor's, like, been in prison for child stuff, so we might not spend too much time talking about that
Or
one.
we might.
Yeah.
It's definitely one of those films that you hear a lot about.
Yeah. Dan Aykroyd, I think, is in it, too.
Sure.
Maybe.
I don't know. I've never seen Howard the Duck.
I get Howard the Duck mixed up with Splash for some reason.
Splash is a good movie.
Did Splash come out at the same time? Howard the Duck has Leah Thompson, Tim Robbins, I might be who I'm thinking of.
Chip
Jeffrey Jones.
Oh,
is
Jeffrey
the
Jones,
guy
yeah.
Yeah. And Jordan Prentice is a little person who played Howard the Duck.
Okay. And Chip Zien from Into the Woods, I think.
All right. So, that's what we got for this episode. So, thanks everybody for watching as always, and we'll be back soon.
Bye.